Welcome to Shh, Tell Me Everything. Welcome, everyone. I'm actually really excited today to be joined by my good friend, Ryan Spelts, because we're just super privileged to have Ryan here today. He is an expert. This is not his first rodeo. And to do him justice, I actually wanted to read part from his bio because I don't think I'll do him justice without reading actually from the bio. And then we'll get into what secret he's going to share with us today because we have a lot that we can learn from this man. So, a little bit about Ryan. So, Ryan Spelts brings 25 years of hands on experience in sales and marketing, having built a reputation as a trusted expert in helping businesses fine tune their marketing strategies to drive results. As a small business owner, Ryan doesn't just teach marketing, he lives it. With over 50 million in career sales, his real-world insights and practical expertise have empowered countless clients to grow their businesses, including leading one client to a $1 million sales day. Ryan's marketing skills span across traditional, digital, social media, content, email, and video marketing. He's known for his ability to demystify complex marketing concepts, making them accessible and actionable for business owners at every stage. A natural communicator and trainer, Ryan is passionate about helping others unlock their potential. Ryan's career began with Cutco, where he quickly rose to leadership, guiding his office to a top 10 national finish. He later revitalized Living Scripture's struggling sales organization, transforming it into a thriving business, generating over $3.5 million in annual revenue within just 2 years of work. In 2016, Ryan and his wife, Melissa, founded Connection Publishing, which grew to include 5 local magazines and later added Connection Media Co., a full-service digital marketing agency serving over 100 clients. Beyond Connection Publishing and Connection Media Co., Ryan and Melissa also launched whattoeatfordinner.com, a meal planning and recipe website designed to make family dinner time simpler. Featuring a wealth of recipes from their magazines and years of culinary experience, the platform provides easy-to-follow meal plans, grocery lists, and dinner solutions, making dinner time easy for busy families. Ryan also co-owns a Roof Max dealership with his son, Kobe. He's a speaker and trainer and regularly shares his expertise. And we'll let him give you his information later to connect with him. So there's so much to say about Ryan. So I've known Ryan for a few years. We actually live not too far away from each other. And in our little hometown, just for some background, when I was very interested in starting an organization of businesses in our area to get together, the first thing I thought of was Ryan Spelts. And actually, Ryan was the first person I went to say, Ryan, what if we did this together? And I knew that if Ryan was behind it, it would work out. And if Ryan would help him in the effort, it would totally become something. So that was a lot of me talking, but I want to welcome Ryan today. And we'll hear more about all the things, but just so the listeners know, he really knows his stuff. This is not Ryan's first rodeo. So Ryan, we're going to get right into it. And we've invited you here today because I would love you to share your secret with us. And don't know what you're going to teach us about, but I'm excited to learn. So I'm going to turn the time over to you, and I'm happy to learn.
Yeah, so I appreciate the intro. I sound way cooler on paper than real life, but
Well, you're good at marketing. That's the point, right? That's a good sign for a marketer.
Well, I appreciate the invite, and I don't necessarily have, any like amazing insight or whatever into being successful in life, but when I talk to new businesses, which I tend to do quite a bit with our business, is I get a lot of people who are like, we're brand new, we're starting this. What do we need to do? And it's easy to say, oh, well, you need to buy this or you need to buy that. But the truth is, most of the time, what they need to do is to go make some sales. And I think, I'm obviously a marketer now, but my first career for 25 years was in sales and sales leadership. So managing salespeople, building sales teams, and getting them out and going, learning how to actually make a sale. And it's interesting because when we first started, I went out into the market before we had a magazine. There was nothing to sell, but I had to know, would people actually be interested in this? After making just a couple of sales, we made some tweaks, changed some things up, and figured out a little bit better way to sell it. I would have never had that insight and could have never launched our magazines had I not gone and talked to 30 or 40 people and said, would you be interested in buying this? And I talk to businesses all the time and I'm like, have you talked to anybody? Have you sold them this? Are they interested in this? Or do they like your designs? Do they like what you're doing, what you're selling? And it's so common that they're like, well, I haven't really done that yet. I just wanted to create the product. And I'm like, well, you're creating something nobody knows anything about. Are you creating something that there's a need for? I don't know until you go out and talk to people. So
this, the way you say it like that, I've been trying to think what makes you different. And okay, so I've been a business owner for years. My husband's been a business owner for years. I've been in marketing prior to being an entrepreneur, and I've always been very hesitant to want to work with any marketing companies, only because I want to write my own ad copy. I'm going to care. I'm going to make a sale. And I think that the difference, think you kind of nailed it, was that it's the sales focus. And you bring that to the forefront instead of just, here's an ad, let's run an ad. It's no, you actually have to go make a sale. And if we have that in place first, that's it. That's totally something that's so different. Cause I mean, and our practice, we have hundreds of businesses that we work with as well. And people can spend so much money on marketing, just like down the drain. It is
So much.
so easy to do and so fast to do. Can you make a sale? And to have somebody with the marketing and sales, but sales, that sales mindset first. Otherwise, what's the point of marketing
Yeah.
if we can't make the sale? Even if we have all the leads, the people don't want it. It's not going to go anywhere.
It's interesting because we've just started offering, so Connection Media Co. is my marketing company, which we sell advertising in. And I always say as marketers, we'll take all of the money you will give us and we will spend it on marketing, right? That's our job, but that doesn't mean it's going to make things better for you. And I started recently through RyanSpelts.com, which is my consulting business, is offering a strategic marketing plan. And the reason I started doing it is like, people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're like just lost. They're just throwing money here, throwing money there, saying, oh, I want to spend on that. Let's do this radio thing. Let's do, a magazine ad. Let's do some Google ads. Let's do some Facebook ads. It's so scattered and they're all over. And I'm like, where's your intertying links to everything? Bring it all together. Does every piece of your marketing start at the top of the funnel, draw people down until you're making a sale and then keeping them retained? And a part of that strategy that we lay out for people is the sales focus. When you get a lead, what happens? Do you know that the percentage, I don't know these percentages off the top of my head, but the percentage likelihood that you'll get a hold of a lead after 5 minutes significantly decreases. I'm talking more than 50%.
You mean 5 minutes from when they've clicked on the ad, or is that what you're talking about?
And it gets worse the faster and easier it is to click on an ad. So if you make it harder for them to click and say, I'm interested, they're going to stick with you longer, but you're going to get way less leads. But if it's easy, like if they click on a Facebook form and all their stuff's pre-filled in and they send, you have 1 minute to get a hold of that person. Otherwise, they're going to forget they even did it. They're going to say, what? I didn't do that. I didn't fill out that form. What are you talking about? You're like, it's all you. How do I have your information? What do you mean? So it significantly decreases. So understanding that and saying, am I structured to be able, do I have people in place where I can call everybody within 1 minute? And if not, then you shouldn't be doing that kind of advertising.
It would be a whole different funnel, a whole different team to be able to support that. And I'm sure some do, you know what I mean? Like that, but it's totally different. Most small business owners, there's no way we could respond in a minute. Like it's just not going to happen.
Unless they know that that's what they're building towards and they start with a sales team first.
Yeah.
I mean, every business is structured different, right? Yours I would call more inbound, right? Car dealerships typically are more inbound. However, they've changed and morphed a little bit over the last probably decade in that they're really selling individual cars because they can fiddle with their ads so much. But when they're in the newspaper days and the old school and the billboards, it was inbound. People walk on the lot and then they have a chance to sell them something. And, but I'm in an outbound business. I got to go find businesses that are interested, that want to market, that want more business. And then I got to gain their trust and do that. So that's outbound. Outbound companies are typically better at responding to leads because they got hungry salespeople who are like, oh, I want to make that sale.
Yeah. They want the phone to ring. They want to pick it up. So I'm hoping that you'll share with us too, because you do so much on the print side and on the digital side, and things that work on one that don't work on the other, or things that were like, what have you learned being in that space, that could help small businesses?
Yeah. So I think it's important to understand what a marketing channel is. And so print, for example, print is a really good branding tool. In fact, studies have shown that when we see things on paper, it imprints in our brain much better. They'll do studies where they'll bring people in a room and they'll say, okay, watch these commercials, look at these newspapers, look at these magazines, look at these, digital websites, do that. And Then they'll measure how much remembrance they have about a brand or different brands that they've seen during that time. Well, print is by far has the highest retention rate of what a brand is.
And I would imagine, especially if they're picking it up, they're holding it, they're
Uh,
interacting with it somehow too.
Yeah, and there's not as much noise when you're on a website. There's so many things moving and popping and trying to get your attention that it decreases your retention. That being said, the number one lead source is never going to be a print magazine. So it shouldn't be your only approach to marketing. You should have print, you should have digital, you should be part of search, unless there's so much competition in your particular brand that it's too expensive to do print, or I mean, not print, sorry, too expensive to do search or too expensive to do social media. And the nice thing is you can look those numbers up. You can be like, how much are people paying per conversion on Google right now in the tax business? Well, we can find that number and know exactly how much they're paying. Sometimes I had a client just recently, a roofing customer, and they were like, well, we have to be on Google. And I was like, you don't have to be on Google. I mean, yes, we were going to be on Google, the organic listing, but you don't have to pay Google. That does not have to be part of your marketing budget. It can be, but we looked up their cost per conversion for roofing customers and I was like, it's way too high. Every other roofer in town is bidding up that price. I don't
Yeah.
think it's worth it.
Well, that's okay. So I have a client that I've worked with back to roofing, a roofing client, and looking at, they were spending anywhere from 20 to 30, sometimes 40 grand a month on these, different marketing things. Cause, there is money in roofing and it gets exciting because if we sell a roof, then there's big dollars coming and it starts to churn. But the question we came back and asked was, well, okay, well, where did the roofs that you're doing actually come from? Where did the leads actually come from? And they didn't know.
Yeah.
And then, but then we're looking and say, okay, but you spent 40 grand. Do we know if any of this stuff was actually leading to those things? But they didn't have they weren't tracking it. There was no good way of
Right.
tracking it. I'm assuming that's pretty common, right? Do you see that same
Super
thing? And how
common.
do people deal with that?
Well, the first thing you want to do is you have to figure out a way to track something, right? So if you're getting referral, you got to put it in your CRM, have a tag or an indicator that says, hey, this is a referral. This is coming from Google. It's not perfect. And here's why it's not perfect, because I could say, oh, that one came from Google. What I don't realize is that they saw my ad in a magazine or they saw it on a billboard and then they Googled me and they say, where did you get my number? Oh, I got it on Google. Oh, okay, great. Well, Google gets credit for a lot of stuff that happens outside of Google. So a multi-channeled approach is important, but it at least gives you something, right? At least says, okay, I came in from Google or that customer came in through Google. And so we want to make sure our Google listing is up to date. And when ChatGPT launches their search feature, we should make sure we're on ChatGPT, however that's going to happen or work, right? So, because it'll be a big player. You got to pay attention to those things. But I think understanding. So I'm actually writing a blog post about this right this morning.
Perfect. How do we
I was
know?
late. So your cost per lead is something that you want to track. How much did I pay to get that lead? Then what's my closing percentage? So if I'm paying this much for a lead, let's say I'm paying $100 a lead and I close at 50%, well, then I'm paying $200 a client, right? So know those numbers. Know basically how much does it cost to get a lead? What percentage did I close at or do I close at? And then how much is it cost me to get a customer? So cost per acquisition. That's all you need to know. If you know those numbers and you're like, whoa, I can tell you in our RoofMax business, our cost per lead doubled this year. This was a slower lead year. The same sources, the same things we were doing the year before, half as effective. Now, part of that's just economic pressure. Part of that's just a difference in the market. It just happens. You can't say that, well, maybe we shouldn't advertise. No, that just means we got to be more effective and we got to be careful with the advertising we're doing, maybe cut back some things that aren't as effective and maybe put money towards things that are being more effective, try to drive that cost per lead down, increase our closing percentage. I was talking to a remodeler and I was like, what can you do to increase your closing percentage? I don't know. I always know they have 4 or 5 of the same kind of companies coming right after me to bid against me. And I said, well, do something different. You go to, it's called, I think, AB Hadley here locally, and they give you a fresh cookie when you get your car repaired there, right? Well, that's something that's unique and different. And you might refer them to someone because you're like, yeah, the waiting room smells like fresh cookies, not like grease and oil, So do something to stand out that says we're worth paying attention to and we're worth referring to.
That makes me think. So we're getting ready to launch some of these new locations for our tax business, right? And looking at like where we're putting the money and what to do. And one of our like absolutes is a really fun playroom. And it's not the big money spender. I mean, we're not going to spend a lot of money on the playroom, compared to what we're actually spending to open a location. But the playroom is something that we consistently get comments about, remarks about. People put it in their reviews. People say, yeah, so and so referred me. They said you had a playroom. I mean, and again, it's
Yep.
not a big cost thing, but it's a big differentiator, right? You don't have a
For sure.
playroom normally if you walk into H&R Block or if you walk into your
Yeah.
CPA's firm, there's not a playroom. They don't want your kids there. We're kind of flipping it the other way. Yeah, just something to differentiate. Well, I think, okay, so I got LASIK, 10, 15 years ago. I don't remember when it was. And I didn't shop around. Like, I went off of a recommendation, but went to, the big guys in Salt Lake. But now there's a lot more, but they used to be like the
Yeah.
ones. What was their name? I don't remember. Sorry, guys. But not that they're listening right now, but and the deal was sealed for me because they had cookies and like they gave us
Yeah.
hot cookies. I thought this is a nice experience. I think these people are going to take good care of me. And I really did. And I didn't even, that was it. We just signed the papers and I
I
got the
love it.
lace. I paid him my $4,000. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it was just that little touch,
Yep.
you know?
And it's funny because I always think, do I have it dialed in? Am I doing things that make people feel special? You always have to ask the question. You have to think about it, rethink about it. Your playroom's a great idea. My brother-in-law's an orthodontist in Las Vegas. He put in an arcade with like full skee ball and,
Man, those kids won't let the parents go anywhere
oh
else. Like
yeah,
they're going to demand to go to
they
that
do.
orthodontist, like for
They
real.
do. They're like, oh, I want to go to that one because they have an arcade.
Yep.
They don't want to shop around. They don't want to go someplace else. That's where they want to go. It's cool. So yeah, something like that's going to be the key because then you can say, okay, driving referrals in most businesses is extremely valuable. And so find ways to get more referrals. Don't be passive about it. Don't wait for referrals to come. When I sold Cutco, which was my very first job, you'd get to the end of the Cutco presentation and you'd say,
And you lasted, I'm assuming, more than 2 months or whatever the average rep is. So,
well, it's a week maybe, but
oh, wait, it's too long, a week. I think I went to the initial presentation in college.
yeah.
I'm an hour into my Cutco
Yeah.
career.
Well, I always tell people they're like, "Oh, I sold Cutco once in college," and and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. I sold $3 million worth of it." So,
So tell me about that.
my
Oh,
little
man.
humble brag. Just kidding. No, I think the key is understanding referrals with Cutco because it was 100% referral business, and so you'd get to the end and you'd say, "Hey, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you ordering or not ordering. I didn't care. I appreciate you spending time with me and taking the time. And if you could write down the names of 10 to 15 people who would be willing enough to help me out, because the ploy was we're a college kid, we get paid
Yeah.
just for presenting. If you'll take a
Kind of
look,
genius on
oh,
Cutco's end.
it is.
Uh-huh.
So just by promoting it that way, I would get between 8 and 15 referrals from people. Some people would pull out like their church group list and they'd just fill the whole thing in, and you're like,
Mhm.
wow, I got 50 referrals from that person. Those were usually a little less effective because they were just giving me a whole list of people. But if I could get 8 to 10 really good ones, then I could follow up with that. And I knew I would get about 4 appointments out of 10 customers. And every 10 set of customers, 4 appointments, I'd close at 60 to 70%. And I knew exactly what my numbers were. Same thing in your business. You should know, how do I get my next 10? And then how many of those am I going to close? What's going to be my average order? And how much am I, paying to get those?
Well, to me, like, because I'm always on the number side, right? Like, it seems terrifying to me to make any decisions with marketing or hiring if you don't know those numbers that you're just talking about, right? If we don't know the
Right.
close rate, we don't know those. It's like, well, then how can I effectively spend money on employees? How can I effectively spend money on advertising if I have no idea what the cost is to acquire leads or to even it goes for, to fulfill? So if we don't
Right.
know that data, then you're really just throwing stuff at the wall. You can't scale.
Right.
Certainly you can't scale.
Right. It's true. That's really the end of the day. You've got to figure out what your cost of doing business is and what your cost is to acquire that business. And then marketing changes. Imagine back in the day so I have an example. My brother-in-law, my wife's brother, was a plumber in St. George, and at the time he was spending, I think, $15,000 to $20,000 a month on phone book advertising because he had a regular plumbing repair, plumbing installation, and a roto-rooter business and a septic tank business, right? So he was spending big
So you
bucks.
spread out, yeah.
And all of a sudden, the market changed. 2008 rolled around. The phone book quit producing. People were looking online more and more. And he literally lost that whole massive business because he couldn't adapt fast enough and figure out how to get clients in. It tanked him. It really hammered him hard. So you look at that and you're like, I got to be willing to adapt. I got to be able to say, okay, this isn't working anymore. Let's do this.
Yeah. But it's hard because like you get attached to something that's working and you want it to always work.
Yep.
But you've seen that, and that's you got print stuff, you got digital stuff, you got to have different things going on. I even look, we do a lot of well, when we're initially launching a location, we do a lot of print in the area, really just to get visibility, right? We want people to see us 10 different times and pass by the sign, and then eventually, maybe in the next 5 years, they'll call us after their friend says to call us.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to like plaster ourselves places. Oh, I lost my whole train of thought. This is my first rodeo. What were you saying, Ryan? We're looking back to it.
Well, just adjusting and moving different sources. You were saying you start with print.
Okay, so I say that just getting attached to it. So knowing that print works. Okay, some of these print things work, but then what I found is like in year 3 and 4 of my business. Okay, so it worked year 1, 2, and 3. So that I just kept throwing the same money at the same things. Realized, wait a minute, it didn't keep working because actually what I found out was the first group of people that would respond to print ads weren't actually the clients that are going to come and stay forever. They're going to ones that are going to price shop, but they're going to come through the door, but then those people are going to refer us all of their people, and those referrals are going to come and stay forever. And so I needed to be more specific even in my strategy. Okay, in the beginning, these print ads worked, but after that, they were less effective. And now I needed to put more money into like the referral program, you know what I mean? And building that and building my online presence now because people were getting my name and then wanting to Google who we are to then make an
For sure.
appointment. But it wasn't the same. And so, but I think about too, like when I look at some of the magazines where, we've had some success, but now I open and I think, oh my gosh, they're so crowded, or I'm so afraid, because you could get lost
Yeah.
in this sea, of
For
other
sure.
people doing the exact same thing. Well, looking like they're doing the exact same thing that you're doing.
Well, it's also, I mean, this is getting nitpicky, but you can look at a magazine, for example, and one might be focused on content. One might be focused on coupons. We have that locally here. Well, coupons is going to produce a very different client than someone who's reading content. And so understanding the source you're using, right? What works on Facebook doesn't necessarily work on Instagram. Even though they're the same company, the way people consume the content there is different. And it's way different than what works on TikTok, which is also different than what works on Twitter, right? You have to understand who you're speaking to and what's important to them so you can speak to them and in their language, in their what's important, answering what's important to them, answering the questions that they have. And most people don't do that. They just answer the question that they personally have in their business. Ask,
Right.
why did you come to us? Why do you like us? What do we do that's different? What's better about us than where you were before? What do you not like about what we do? What do we need to fix? Ask questions, find out.
Oh, that sounds so scary though. That sounds very scary for me to ask a client. But that's the data that we need,
Yeah.
right? And I guess at first I'd hesitate. I'd want to hesitate, but if you
Yeah.
don't know, why, not only where they came from, but why.
Yeah.
Why did they come and why are they coming back? Or why are they referring? Um, can be really strong.
Yep.
Okay, Ryan, we're gonna wrap up here in a second, but do you have any other tips that you want to share with us? I mean, you have a vast knowledge and everything's changing so fast and you manage to keep up on it. What do you have kind of in closing that could be useful for us?
Well, I think one of the things that's been really interesting recently is when we started offering these strategic marketing plans. They're a deep dive. They take my team of 6, 30 to 45 days to do all the research, to deep dive and figure it out. And I find that people don't, back to what we were just saying, they don't necessarily know why people are looking for them. They don't know what terms they're looking for, and they don't know who to target. Seth Godin says, do things that matter for people who care. Most business owners will get caught up in worrying about the people who don't
Yes.
like them instead of
Uh-huh.
asking the people that do like them and saying, I want to find more of those. The
Yeah.
people who don't like you, why do you care? There's plenty of people out there.
They're always gonna not like me, and it's like we're not gonna fix that, right?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right. And so go for the people who like you, that like what you're doing and how you do it, and then just find more of those. So then you say, okay, let's dive a little deeper. What does that type of person look for? What are they thinking about that's motivating them to make a decision? Where do they hang out? So can you do research and be like, my client is hanging out on Facebook, or is it Instagram, or is it TikTok? Maybe you can do all three. I don't know. Until you research it, you've got to figure that out. If you're in politics, if you're in, breaking news, I got news for you. Twitter's the place to be. X. That's where that stuff happens. So if somebody is very interested in that and you're selling something that has to do with that, like a political figure, they need to be on X. I don't care what your party is. I don't care. You need to be on X. You need to communicate with people who care about that stuff because that's where they're going to find it. And so I think thinking in that way first, who am I talking to? Where do they hang out? That's where I'm going to go put my money into.
Awesome. When I like thinking of, I hear a lot who's your ideal client? This is the profile of your ideal client. I like thinking of it like you just said, who's going to naturally like me? Like or who's naturally is going to be the easiest, person to like what we're doing and want already what we have. And then how do we find more of them? Not necessarily needing to persuade so many people that are on the outskirts, but let's look also at who naturally would like what we're doing. They would already like what we have to offer. We just need to connect with them and find them.
Yeah.
That to me feels less scary too than, okay, but we're going to go find the people that like us. Okay, Ryan, we're going to turn the last couple minutes over to you. How do we find you? Give us your pitch. We'd love to hear a little more.
Well, we do free consultations for anybody that would like to learn more about marketing, spend time on their business. You can go to connectionmediaco.com, which is just our advertising company website, or you can go to ryanspelts.com and request a one-on-one with me. I do free marketing audits where we'll deep dive in. We pretty much sell almost anything in digital marketing. There's a few things that we don't specialize in, but we have really good resources, really good team, and we can build custom, strategic marketing plans, which are really powerful. And that's where we are. So.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks, Ryan. Thanks for joining us on Tell Me Everything. We're so glad that you did. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to an episode of Tell Me Everything. This podcast is proudly hosted by PackTax and produced by Techne Innovations. We drop new episodes 4 times a month, so be sure to subscribe and never miss out. See you next time, and keep those secrets